My husband of 8 years had an affair with my best friend, and when I confronted them, he said I talked too much about our marriage problems and drove her to comfort him. She nodded and said, "You never listen anyway." I said, "You're right, I do talk too much. But lawyers listen very well." Then I served them both at her birthday party in front of everyone. I'm Sarah, 32 years old, and until 2 weeks ago I thought I had a solid marriage and a best friend who would never betray me. I was wrong on both counts, but the way I found out and what happened next has turned into something I never expected. My husband Marcus and I have been married for 8 years, together for 10. We met in college and got married right after graduation. He works in finance, I'm a teacher, and we have what I thought was a pretty normal marriage. Sure, we've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always believed we could work through anything together. My best friend Lisa has been in my life for 12 years. We met during my sophomore year of college and instantly clicked. She was my maid of honor, the first person I told when Marcus proposed, and the one I called when I needed to vent about anything. She's been single for most of the time I've known her, with a few short-term relationships that never seemed to stick. Over the past year, Marcus and I had been going through a rough patch. He got passed over for a promotion he really wanted, and it affected his mood and confidence. He became distant and irritable, spending more time at work and less time talking to me. When he was home, he seemed checked out, always on his phone or watching TV instead of engaging with me. I tried to be supportive, but I'll admit I was frustrated. When someone you love shuts down, it's natural to want to talk about it, to try to understand what's happening and how to fix it. I found myself calling Lisa frequently to discuss what was going on with Marcus, asking for advice on how to reach him, or just needing someone to listen when I felt ignored in my own marriage. Lisa was always so understanding. She'd listen patiently while I explained how Marcus had been acting, offer suggestions for how to approach him, and reassure me that all marriages go through difficult periods. She even offered to talk to Marcus herself since they'd become good friends over the years, but I told her I wanted to handle it myself. Looking back now, I realized she was getting detailed information about every crack in my marriage while positioning herself as the supportive friend who really understood what I was going through. 3 weeks ago, everything changed. I had been working late grading papers when I realized I'd left my laptop charger at school. Marcus wasn't answering his phone, so I decided to drive over to Lisa's apartment to borrow hers since we had the same model. I used the spare key she'd given me years ago and let myself in, calling out to let her know I was there. She didn't answer, but I could hear voices coming from her bedroom. I figured she was on a phone call, so I went to her kitchen table where she usually kept her laptop. That's when I heard Marcus's voice. At first, I thought maybe she had him on speakerphone and they were discussing something about me, maybe planning a surprise or talking about how to help with our marriage issues. But as I got closer to the bedroom, I realized what I was actually hearing. They weren't talking about me. They were talking about how good it felt to finally be together without me around. I stood frozen in her hallway, listening to my husband and my best friend discuss their relationship like I didn't exist. Marcus was saying how much easier it was to talk to Lisa because she actually listened instead of just complaining all the time. Lisa agreed, saying she'd never understood how he put up with my constant need to process everything. They'd been sleeping together for 4 months. 4 months. While I was calling Lisa crying about how distant Marcus had become, she was comforting him in ways I didn't even know he needed. While I was asking her for advice on how to reconnect with my husband, she was actively working to keep us disconnected so she could have him for herself. I quietly left the apartment and sat in my car for an hour, trying to process what I'd just learned. My husband was cheating on me with my best friend, and they were both laughing about how I was too clueless to notice. But instead of falling apart, I felt something unexpected: clarity. For the first time in months, everything made perfect sense. Marcus's distance, his irritability when I tried to talk to him, the way he always seemed to have somewhere else to be. Lisa's constant availability to listen to my problems, her suggestions that maybe I should give Marcus more space, her offers to talk to him herself. They'd been playing me for months, and now I knew exactly who I was dealing with. I drove home and acted completely normal. When Marcus came home an hour later, I asked how his day was and told him about mine. I didn't mention Lisa or where I'd been. I just watched him lie to my face about working late while knowing exactly where he'd really been. The next few days were surreal. I went to work, came home, made dinner, and had normal conversations with Marcus while secretly planning my next move. I called Lisa and chatted about weekend plans like nothing had changed. I was amazed at how easily they both lied to me, how naturally the deception came to them. I spent that time gathering evidence. I checked our phone records and found hundreds of texts between Marcus and Lisa dating back months. I looked through our credit card statements and found charges at restaurants and hotels I'd never been to. I even drove by Lisa's apartment a few times and saw Marcus's car there when he was supposed to be at work. But most importantly, I called a divorce lawyer. My lawyer, Janet, was incredibly helpful. She explained my rights, what I could expect in terms of asset division, and how to protect myself financially. She suggested documenting everything and advised me to wait until I had all my ducks in a row before confronting Marcus. The element of surprise is your biggest advantage right now, she said. Don't waste it on an emotional confrontation. Use it strategically. So I planned. I opened my own bank account and transferred half of our savings. I gathered copies of all our important financial documents. I even started looking at apartments, just in case I needed to move out quickly. The whole time, Marcus and Lisa continued their affair, completely oblivious to the fact that I knew. Marcus actually seemed happier, which I now understood was because he was getting his emotional and physical needs met elsewhere. Lisa kept calling to check on me and offer support for my marriage troubles. The breaking point came last Friday. Lisa's birthday was on Saturday, and she was throwing a party at her apartment. She'd invited about 20 people, including Marcus and me. All week, she'd been texting me about how excited she was and how much she needed this celebration after a stressful month at work. Meanwhile, Marcus had been working late every night that week, coming home after I was already in bed. When I asked him about Lisa's party, he said he might stop by for a little while but probably couldn't stay long because he had a big project due Monday. Friday night, I followed him. Instead of going to his office, he went straight to Lisa's apartment. I parked across the street and watched them through her living room window, kissing and acting like a couple. They ordered takeout and spent the evening cuddled on her couch watching movies. I went home and finalized my plan. Saturday afternoon, I got dressed for Lisa's party. I chose a red dress that made me feel confident and powerful. I did my hair and makeup carefully, wanting to look my absolute best for what was about to happen. I also called Janet and asked her to have the divorce papers ready. She said she could have them prepared by Monday morning, but I asked if there was any way to get them sooner. She said she'd make some calls. At 6 p.m., I arrived at Lisa's party with a beautifully wrapped gift and a smile on my face. The apartment was full of people I knew, mutual friends, co-workers, some of Lisa's family members. Marcus was already there, and he kissed me hello like a loving husband. How was work? I asked sweetly. Busy, he replied. But I'm glad I could make it for a little while. Lisa hugged me and thanked me for coming. She was wearing a tight black dress and looked beautiful. Looking at her, I realized I wasn't even angry anymore. I just felt sorry for both of them. I mingled with the other guests for about an hour, making small talk and acting like everything was normal. Several people commented on how happy I looked, which was ironic since I was about to blow up my entire life. At 7 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Janet, "Papers are ready. Can deliver tonight if needed." I texted back, "Come to this address in 30 minutes." At 7:15, I asked for everyone's attention. The room quieted down, and everyone looked at me expectantly. "I just want to say a few words about Lisa," I began, raising my wine glass. "She's been such an important part of my life for so many years. She's been there for me through everything, my marriage, my career, my struggles. She's listened to all my problems and offered such wonderful advice." People smiled and nodded. Lisa looked pleased and a little emotional. "In fact," I continued, "she's been so supportive during this difficult time in my marriage. She's really gone above and beyond to comfort my husband when I've been too busy talking about our problems to pay attention to his needs." The room was still smiling, but I could see a few people looking confused by my phrasing. Marcus had gone pale. "Lisa has taught me so much about friendship and loyalty. She's shown me exactly who I can trust and who I can't. She's helped me understand that when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them." Now people were definitely confused. The smiles were becoming uncertain. "So I want to thank Lisa for sleeping with Marcus for the past 4 months and helping me realize that my marriage was over." The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Lisa's face went white, then red. "Sarah, what are you? I'm also grateful that you both think I talk too much about our problems," I continued, looking directly at Marcus. "You're absolutely right. I do talk too much. But you know who's really good at listening? Lawyers." That's when Janet appeared at the front door. I'd given her Lisa's apartment number and told her to just walk in at 7:45. "Marcus," I said, still smiling, "I'd like you to meet Janet, my divorce attorney. She has some papers for you." The room erupted. Several people started talking at once, some people backed away like they didn't want to be involved, and Lisa's mother actually gasped out loud. Marcus stood up quickly, knocking over his chair. "Sarah, we need to talk about this privately." "Why?" I asked. "You've been conducting your relationship with my best friend pretty publicly. You've been to restaurants, hotels, you've been here every night this week. I think public is exactly how this should be handled." Janet approached Marcus and handed him the divorce papers. "Mr. Thompson, you've been served," she said professionally. Then she turned to Lisa and handed her a second set of papers. Ms. Rodriguez, these are for the alienation of affection lawsuit. Lisa looked confused. What is that? It means I'm suing you for deliberately interfering with my marriage, I explained. It's still legal in this state, and I have plenty of evidence of your intentional actions to seduce my husband. The party had completely fallen apart at this point. Most people were gathering their things to leave, though a few were clearly staying to watch the drama unfold. Lisa's sister was taking pictures with her phone, which I didn't mind at all. Sarah, please, Lisa said, tears starting to form. Can we talk about this like adults? I tried talking, I replied. You told me I talked too much, remember? So now I'm letting the legal system do the talking for me. Marcus finally found his voice. This is insane, Sarah. You can't just humiliate us like this. I can't humiliate you like this? I asked. You humiliated me for 4 months while I cried to my best friend about how distant my husband had become, not knowing she was the reason why. You never listen anyway, Lisa said suddenly, and I realized she was probably in shock. You just talk and never actually hear what people are telling you. You're absolutely right, I said. I talked to you about my marriage problems, and you listened very carefully so you could use that information to steal my husband. I talked to Marcus about feeling disconnected, and he listened just enough to know exactly how to hide his affair. I talk too much, and clearly neither of you listens well enough. Marcus tried a different approach. Sarah, I know you're hurt, but this isn't how mature people handle relationship problems. Mature people don't sleep with their spouse's best friend, I replied. But you're right, I should have handled this more maturely. I should have confronted you privately, given you a chance to lie to me some more, maybe even let you convince me it was somehow my fault for not being supportive enough. By now, almost everyone had left except Lisa's family and a couple of close friends who seemed too stunned to move. Instead, I continued, I decided to handle it exactly the way you've been handling our marriage, behind someone's back, with plenty of evidence, and with a complete disregard for how it might hurt the person who trusted you most. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. Enjoy the rest of the party. I'm sure you two will have plenty to talk about now that you don't have to sneak around anymore. As I reached the door, I turned back one more time. Oh, and Lisa? I'm keeping the friendship bracelet you made me for my birthday. I want to remember exactly what your loyalty is worth. Update 1. The aftermath of Lisa's party has been absolutely wild. I'm writing this from my new apartment, which I was able to move into immediately thanks to all the preparation I'd done beforehand. The story of what happened has spread through our social circle like wildfire. Apparently, several people at the party posted about it on social media, and now everyone we know is talking about it. Some people are Team Sarah, some people think I went too far, but most people seem shocked by the whole situation. Marcus has been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between apologizing and being angry at me for making a scene. He's staying at Lisa's apartment, which is ironic since that's where he was spending most of his time anyway. The best part is that Lisa's family was at the party when everything went down. Her mother called me yesterday to apologize for her daughter's behavior and to tell me she's raised Lisa better than this. Apparently, there was a huge family fight after I left, and Lisa's sister posted the whole story on Facebook before Lisa could stop her. Marcus's parents also reached out. They had no idea what was happening and are apparently disgusted by his behavior. His mother actually offered to testify in the divorce proceedings if I needed character witnesses, which is both sweet and devastating. The divorce is moving quickly since I already had everything prepared. Marcus tried to contest it at first, claiming I was being vindictive and unreasonable, but his lawyer apparently told him he doesn't have a leg to stand on given the evidence I have. The alienation of affection lawsuit against Lisa is more complicated, but Janet is confident we have a strong case. Apparently, Lisa has been asking around about whether I can really sue her for that, which suggests she's finally understanding the legal consequences of her actions. Work has been interesting. I teach at a high school, and somehow word got back to some of my students about what happened. Teenagers have no filter, so I've been getting comments like, Mrs. Thompson, did you really serve divorce papers at a party? I've been deflecting with humor, telling them that sometimes life gives you plot twists you never saw coming. Update 2. 3 weeks later, and the drama continues to unfold in ways I never expected. Marcus and Lisa's relationship is apparently falling apart. According to mutual friends, they're fighting constantly now that they're actually trying to have a real relationship instead of sneaking around. Turns out that the excitement of an affair doesn't translate well to everyday life when you're dealing with divorce proceedings and lawsuits. Marcus reached out asking if we could try couples counseling. I told him that ship sailed when he decided to work on our marriage problems by sleeping with my best friend instead of talking to his wife. He said I was being stubborn and unforgiving, and I reminded him that forgiveness is earned, not demanded. The alienation of affection case has taken an interesting turn. Lisa hired a lawyer who apparently told her that fighting the lawsuit would be expensive and difficult given all the evidence I have. Her lawyer recommended settling out of court, which means she's basically admitting guilt. But here's the kicker: Lisa called me directly to try to negotiate. She wanted to meet for coffee to work this out like friends. When I told her we were never friends and everything goes through lawyers now, she broke down crying and said she never meant for it to go this far. I asked her what exactly she thought would happen when she started sleeping with her best friend's husband, and she said she thought it would just be a temporary thing until Marcus figured out what he really wanted. The audacity was breathtaking. She genuinely believed she was providing some kind of service to our marriage by giving my husband an outlet for his frustrations. She thought she was helping. Even better, she asked if I would consider dropping the lawsuit if she made things right with Marcus, meaning if she broke up with him and convinced him to come back to me. I told her that A, I wouldn't take Marcus back if he was the last man on earth, and B, she had clearly misunderstood the entire situation if she thought this was about winning him back. Work has actually been a bright spot. My principal pulled me aside to tell me she admired how I handled my personal situation, and that if I ever needed time off for legal proceedings, she'd make sure it was approved. Apparently, she went through something similar with her ex-husband and has been following my situation with interest. The best development is that I've been getting messages from other women who've been through similar experiences. One woman told me she wishes she'd had the courage to expose her cheating husband publicly instead of trying to work it out quietly. Another said seeing my story gave her the strength to leave her own unfaithful partner. I never intended to become some kind of inspiration for women dealing with infidelity, but I'm glad if my experience helps other people realize they don't have to suffer in silence or protect the people who betrayed them. Update 3. 2 months post-party, and life has settled into a new normal that's honestly better than what I had before. The divorce was finalized last week. Marcus tried one last time to contest the settlement, but his lawyer basically told him to accept it since the evidence of his infidelity was overwhelming. I got the house, half his retirement account, and my lawyer fees paid. Marcus gets to start over with whatever he can build with Lisa, assuming they last that long. Speaking of Lisa, she settled the alienation of affection lawsuit for a significant amount of money. She couldn't afford to fight it, and her lawyer advised her that she'd likely lose anyway. The settlement included a non-disclosure agreement, so she can't talk publicly about our friendship or my marriage, which means she can't try to spin her own version of events. Marcus and Lisa broke up 3 weeks ago. Apparently, the stress of the legal proceedings combined with the reality of their relationship being built on betrayal and lies was too much for them. Marcus tried to reach out to me afterward, suggesting that maybe we could start fresh now that Lisa was out of the picture. I told him that he'd shown me exactly who he was, and I believed him. Starting fresh would require him to become a completely different person, which isn't possible. The viral attention from the party story has mostly died down, but I still occasionally get messages from people who heard about it through mutual friends. Most are supportive, though I've had a few people tell me I should have handled it privately. To those people, I say this: they didn't handle their affair privately. They involved our entire social circle by conducting their relationship publicly while lying to me. They made it a public situation by betraying me in front of everyone we knew. I just made sure everyone knew the truth about what was really happening. I've started dating again, which feels strange but exciting. I went on a date last week with a man I met through a friend, and when I told him about my divorce, his response was, "Well, your ex-husband clearly didn't know what he had." It was refreshing to be with someone who saw my worth instead of taking it for granted. I've also reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with over the years, and I'm building new friendships based on actual trust and loyalty. It's amazing how much energy you have for building new relationships when you're not wasting it on people who don't deserve it. Final update. 6 months later, and I can honestly say that the worst thing that happened to me turned out to be the best thing that could have happened. Marcus is apparently dating someone new already, which just confirms that he's learned nothing from this experience. According to mutual friends, he tells people that our marriage just didn't work out and avoids mentioning the affair entirely. Some people know the truth, others don't, but I don't care enough to correct the record anymore. Lisa moved to a different city after the settlement. She couldn't handle living in the same place where everyone knew what she'd done. She deleted all her social media accounts and cut ties with most of our mutual friends. I heard through the grapevine that she told people she was starting fresh in a place where people didn't judge her for one mistake. One mistake. 4 months of sleeping with her best friend's husband while pretending to support the marriage was one mistake. I've been in therapy, not because I'm devastated, but because I want to understand how I missed the signs and make sure I never ignore red flags again. My therapist has helped me realize that I wasn't blind or stupid. I was trusting people who had given me no reason not to trust them, right up until they betrayed me. She's also helped me understand that my instinct to expose them publicly wasn't about revenge, it was about truth. I spent months being lied to and manipulated, and I refused to continue protecting their secrets once I learned what they really were. The man I've been dating, David, proposed last month. I said yes, not because I need to be married to be happy, but because he's shown me what a real partnership looks like. He communicates instead of shutting down, he includes me in decisions instead of making them behind my back, and he treats my feelings as valid instead of dismissing them. When I told him about my first marriage and what happened, he said, "I'm sorry they put you through that, but I'm grateful it led you to me." That's what real love looks like, someone who sees your scars as proof of your strength, not evidence of your damage. I've learned that talking isn't the problem, talking to the wrong people is. I've learned that loyalty isn't automatic just because someone claims to love you. And I've learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is refuse to protect people from the consequences of their own actions. To anyone going through something similar, you don't owe anyone your silence. You don't have to protect people who wouldn't protect you. And you absolutely don't have to handle betrayal maturely when the people who betrayed you didn't handle your relationship maturely. Trust your instincts, document everything, and remember that people who truly love you don't put you in positions where you have to choose between your dignity and your relationship. I'm remarrying next spring, this time to someone who deserves the love and loyalty I'm offering. Marcus and Lisa gave me the gift of showing me exactly what I don't want in my life, and now I'm building something infinitely better with someone who actually values what I bring to the table. Sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a much better one.